Hello, if you're just joining us, this is the scene of a brush fire here in the middle of the Santa Clara River. This is just north of Valencia Boulevard and just west of Bouquet Canyon Road in the middle of the Santa Clara River. So this fire starting over the last 20 minutes, initially, being handled by one engine. They quickly upgraded this to a first alarm response, but this fire creeping in the riverbed, moving very, very quickly in terms of where it was a little while ago. But you can hear fire engines just behind me. That was engine 156 off of Copper Hill Drive making their way to the scene here. But you can see flames still lapping up inside the riverbed. Valencia Boulevard, I can tell you, if you're heading westbound on Valencia toward the mall, it is at a crawl right now to facilitate the firefighters who are parked along the northernmost lane of Valencia Boulevard. So you can see the flames once again still lapping up inside the Santa Clara River. They did detain at least one person involved in this just a short time ago on a bike. Now the Sheriff's Department investigating the cause of the scene along with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. But I can tell you, fire crews from Battalion 6 from stations 111, 126, and 156 working to try to get this out from the ground. They've continued at least one helicopter to dip out of a nearby dip site. But they've since named this the Valencia fire. Now we're hearing from the Valencia incident commander. They're asking for some camp crews to come here to kind of clean some of this up, but I can tell you some heavy vegetation inside the Santa Clara River at this point in time. But fire crews working very quickly to try to get this out as best they can. But I can tell you some of their obstacles right now, water. Each of the engines carrying about 500 gallons of water on board. They're trying to get to access to some of the water tenders, but also some of the water hydrants along Valencia Boulevard. But I can tell you with the fire in the middle of the riverbed right now, water access kind of an issue. Another issue they're working on fighting right now is the density of the brush inside the middle of the riverbed. So they're looking at some heavy vegetation, including some chaparral in the middle of the riverbed, some heavy dead brush as well. But I can tell you some of these riverbed locations really a site for some of the transients that may wander into the river, and that's what the Sheriff's Department is looking at right now, to look to see if there's anyone suspicious in nature coming out of the river at this time. But you can still see some of the flames still working their way through some of the dense vegetation once again inside of the riverbeds. But I can tell you this fire upgraded to a full first alarm response, and they've kept one helicopter on this as well. But we can see what looks like water tender, either water tender 156 or water tender 73, making their way to help supply some of the water to this fire. Because right now, as I said earlier, water availability is somewhat of an issue right now, but they're working on mitigating that. We're seeing engine 76 from Henry Mayo Drive making their way to the scene as well to lend a hand. So you're really getting some manpower onto this fire right now, and you can see some of the firefighters making their way through the riverbed, trying to get to the middle of it. If you know where In-N-Out Burger is, this is just west of that. So just southwest of In-N-Out Burger, you can see as I zoom out exactly where this fire is in the riverbed. This fire making its way really right in the dead smack middle of the Santa Clara River. So you're seeing really some accessibility issues or having to climb over some of these wooden posts to try to get to the fire. But you can see that fire really dancing along in some of that heavier vegetation, making its way further toward Valencia Boulevard and really coming toward my direction. I'm standing currently just behind the Arco station at the northwest corner of Valencia Boulevard, Bouquet Canyon Road, and Soledad Canyon Road, kind of what they call Bouquet Junction. So this fire burning just northwest of Bouquet Junction, if you're familiar with the area, just across from where the old Kmart used to be, which is now a furniture store. But you're seeing firefighters really going in to try to stop these flames from spreading any faster, any further, and they're waiting for some of the air support to come in. But I can tell you, for the air support, no obstacles in terms of power lines. So really a clear punch for some of the air assets that are making their way to the scene. We're seeing battalions, chiefs from both Battalions 6 and Battalion 22 making their way to the scene here once again. This is a brush fire in the middle of the Santa Clara River, just northwest of Bouquet Junction. That's where Soledad Canyon Road breaks off and becomes Valencia Boulevard, and Bouquet Canyon Road makes a move to the north. So this fire moving very slowly. So earlier moving quickly, now moving at a crawl, creeping through some of the heavier vegetation. Once again, that's in the middle of this riverbed. If you have any questions about the firefight or what's going on around us, I can see very clearly what the firefighters are doing. Right now, they're getting off of some of these engines that have made their way to the scene, but we can hear additional engines making their way here as well. We've seen engines 111, 76, and 156, as well as engine 126 making their way to the scene. But we're hearing what looks like most likely engine 73 making their way from Fire Station 73 just south of 15th Street along Railroad Avenue. But you're seeing a multitude of units really converging on this fire right now, trying to attack it from the ground. So you have a ground fight really underway here as they wait for one of the helicopters as part of the air assets that they've ordered. But we can see some of the battalion chiefs making their way over to the storage center of Valencia, driving along a bike trail. And that's engine 124 making their way in from Fire Station 124 in Stevenson Ranch, as well as engine 128 from Fire Station 128 along White's Canyon Road in Canyon Country. So you're seeing, once again, a multitude of units making their way, trying to make a ground approach as best they can. And what they're trying to do right now is keep this fire small in terms of footprints. So we're going to zoom out just a little bit so you can get a better vantage point of what's going on here. This is a brush fire, once again, for those of you who have just joined us, and I can see quite a few of you have. No structures in the path of this brush fire at this point in time. It's quite simply burning right in the middle of the Santa Clara River as the sun sets on us. We're going to open our iris just a little bit and try to fight a little bit of the darkness, but I can tell you, firefighters really trying to work to surround this fire and trying to gain what they call containment. Containment meaning it's really a tool that they use to try to keep a fire from spreading in terms of footprint size. So their first indication right now is that this fire most likely started as part of a human cause. So that's what the Sheriff's Department is investigating right now, along with the fire department, because you can see no power lines anywhere in the area. Typically they will look at that as one of the causes, but at this point in time, no power lines across the riverbed at this point. They did see some people milling around in the area earlier, and we believe the Sheriff's Department has detained those people as part of their investigation, what they call detain and ascertain. They will detain anyone who is suspicious in nature and may be related to the crime, and they will ascertain some of those details to determine if that person was, in fact, related to the crime. But really no word on whether or not this is determined to be arson or suspicious in nature. Right now they're just investigating it as suspicious in nature until they determine what the cause is. But that fire moving very slowly now and really shrinking in terms of the output of smoke that it has, which generally is a good sign for the firefight. That's usually a sign that firefighters making a good approach in terms of trying to keep it contained and corralled. And it sounds like they're holding this fire to about 1 acre in size. They're going to have full containment on this fire very shortly. So we're getting some details trickling in from the incident commander. They're holding to actually 1/8 of an acre. And they're possibly canceling Copter 19. Copter 19, one of the Sikorsky Firehawks detailed to this fire at this point in time, and they had been asked to respond to this fire, but they may be canceling Copter 19 in just a second, as they've kept this fire to about 1/8 of an acre, and they have nearly full containment. We're seeing Battalion Chief 22 arriving back to the scene, as well as they did a quick journey around the eastern flank of the fire. But we're hearing that this fire being held to about 1/8 of an acre in size. They're expecting full containment in just a second, as we've heard from the Valencia incident commander. This fire once again being called the Valencia fire. Copter 19 on scene now from what we're hearing. So we should be seeing Copter 19 making their approach into the scene right now, and I can hear them coming in just from behind me. But Copter 19 going to get a good look at the fire and analyze exactly where it's burning, able to look at some of the hot spots in the area, but also to help assist in terms of dropping water from the air in case some wind were to pick up, or in case the fire were to take off from them. That copter going to come in handy from the air. But this fire, once again, breaking out in the middle of the Santa Clara River. I'm going to give you an exact time of when the 911 report was made. That 911 report coming in at about 4:06 p.m. So this fire burning over the last 30 minutes here, once again in the middle of the Santa Clara River, just north of Valencia Boulevard and just west of Bouquet Canyon Road. But you can see firefighters in the middle of the screen making their way around, and as we heard just a few moments ago, they're keeping this to about 1/8 of an acre, and nearly fully contained at this point in time. So they're going to be ordering some camp crews to come in here with their hand tools, and they're going to be able to cut away some of the excess vegetation, as we tell you during each fire. They're able to come in and really reinforce those containment lines. Firefighters are reporting initially to the scene, able to really keep this fire in check and keep it almost fully contained at this point. But those camp crews, once again, they're going to be coming in to help reinforce those containment lines with some of their hand tools, including some chainsaws and some shovels. And we're getting another update from the incident commander here, so just give me just a moment. So at this point in time, they have stopped all forward progression of the fire, and they have reached full containment. So you can see some of that smoke still smoldering from the fire, and that gives us an opportunity to really explain what containment means. When you reach full containment, it does not mean the fire has simply stopped burning. It just means that they have a full hose line around that fire, they have personnel around the fire, or they've cut off all the vegetation around the fire, and they're able to keep that fire from spreading any further in terms of the size of its footprint. So the fire, once again, forward progress has been stopped. They've stopped it really in its tracks. That's simply what that means. They've also reached full containment on the Valencia fire in the middle of the Santa Clara River, keeping it once again to 1/8 of an acre in size. No structures threatened at this point in time, no injuries reported also. So what it looks like is it's still smoldering inside of some of that dense vegetation in the middle of the riverbed. So it's going to be smoldering for quite some time until they can get some water completely around that fire. But I'm hearing Copter 19 just above us coming in from what we believe Camp 9. And they're going to come in and take a quick look at this. Hopefully they have some water on board. More than likely they were using Helispot 111 Bravo, which is a tank just above Newhall Ranch Road, designated for fires just in this area. And we're seeing Copter 19 with that red stripe on its belly, a water tank from CAL FIRE. So we're seeing, once again, those resources joining the firefight at this point in time. But they were talking just a short moment ago about canceling Copter 19, but it looks like Copter 19 might be able to come in and maybe get a drop off at this point in time. We don't know if they have any water on board, but you can see that Sikorsky Firehawk, once again, the Sikorsky S70I coming in, and it looks like they just sounded their siren, which is a good indication that they're going to have some water on board to drop, and that's in fact true. They're about to drop that water just right on top of that fire. So you're seeing the first water drop for the Valencia fire being made by Copter 19 with a red stripe on its belly, coming in with about 1,000 gallons of water raining down from the sky above, and it's going to help slow down some of that smoldering. You can see from where this fire was about 30 seconds ago, significant progress made now thanks to that 1,000 gallon water drop from the air, once again from that Sikorsky S70I Firehawk, one of the Los Angeles County Fire Department Air Operations fleet helicopters. They just ordered 2 more, one of them here usually serving in that Helco role, but they've only requested 1 helicopter to come in, and Copter 19 going to make that their final drop of the night on this fire. And I can tell you some of those pilots living here in the Santa Clarita Valley, they call this place their home. So really for them, an opportunity to help protect their neighbors and their family members here, once again, in the Santa Clarita Valley. But once again, this fire kept to about 1/8 acre in size, 100% containment. And it looks like Copter 19 is going to be signing off from this fire. And that's true. In fact, Copter 19 signing off from this fire, heading back to Barton Heliport in Pacoima, making that their one and only drop of the night. Coming in, dropping once again those 1,000 gallons of water raining down from the sky above, aiding those firefighters on the ground who have overcome those access issues, also overcoming those water supply issues with their water tenders and multiple engines on board supplying, each of the engines supplying about 500 gallons of water. So combining all of that from the ground and from the air, this looks like this fire fully in check. Once again, forward progress has been stopped. This fire once again held to 1/8 of an acre. That's going to do it for us here at the scene of the Valencia fire, once again burning in the middle of the Santa Clara River. Forward progress stopped, 1/8 of an acre in size, and holding at about 100% containment. That's going to do it for us here live at the scene. Reporting live here at Bouquet Junction, this is Austin Dave.